Hello there, everyone. Mr. Expectation Setting here to talk about what I think we can anticipate from Fat Shark in 2025 concerning Darktide and perhaps beyond at some point. But Darktide is a game that's in its third year of development, and we have a lot of information to base our expectations of their continued development upon, including the fact that they have already declared they are going to be releasing 4 major updates for this year. And they said that those updates will include new maps, new weapons, improvements for Havoc, and we've also got a lot of ongoing bugs and unresolved storylines and all that stuff that we can use to base our assumptions of what this year's focus will be for Fat Shark and Darktide. So first, let's go ahead and address probably the first and foremost thing in a lot of people's minds. When is Fat Shark going to get back to Darktide and start pumping out content for everyone to enjoy again? Well, they've already said in their winter announcement that the mid-January update, like 1 week from now, there will be an event that will probably, likely, almost definitely not contain any like updates or any bug fixes or anything like that. I think that's when the team is getting back to work. So they just like come in, sit down in the office, drop their bags, and they go ahead and slam the big rollout event button, and that just kind of like signals to everyone, hey, we're back and we're starting to work on this. And then at the end of January, that's when the first hotfix of the year is going to roll out, and we have to assume that this hotfix is probably going to be generally oriented towards all of these crazy bugs. I would not get super excited for it being like, oh, nerfs to the dueling sword or fixing Ogren or whatever. I think it's going to be mainly fixing bugs since we had a nice big healthy crop of them pop up in the 1 month or so that they've been gone, and some that have been lingering from before they hit that winter break. So let's go ahead and just set some expectations for what we can be looking forward to see in 2025 based on what we saw in 2024, which was 4 major updates in 2024, just like they say they're expecting to release in 2025. Those 4 major updates were the Secrets of the Machine God, that was released in the middle of the summer. The Path of Redemption. Path of Redemption was the update to the way that penances work and the ongoing sort of like train of penance points that you get, sort of the pseudo battle pass unlocks. And then of course we had Unlocked and Loaded in fall. And then finally, we had Grim Protocols in winter. So they pretty much stuck to their 4 releases for the year, and they have had 57 hotfixes total over the course of a little more than 2 years, and 29 of those hotfixes were released in 2024. So it pretty much adds up. It looks like they've done about exactly what they expected to do. They've doubled the number of hotfixes, about 1 every 2 weeks, and they've also released 4 main updates. So let's go on and talk about what we can expect for this year. Like I said before, I think the primary focus when they come back right after Christmas break is going to be looking for bugs and crashes. And I've been perusing the bug category, and it's super hard to search for anything because Havoc has been such a huge cluster. It just completely dwarfs every other sort of comment on the bug fix Fat Shark forum thing, so you have to like search around that. So fixing Havoc and getting Havoc so that's actually giving people the rewards it needs and not being so weird and finicky and dropping people and not picking people back up and all the issues related to that, I think that should hopefully be pretty easy to roll out, to just kind of like press that and get that fixed. But who knows? I'm not focusing on all the other fixes with Havoc when I'm saying this. I'm just saying that, yes, Havoc has a lot of bugs, and Havoc needs to be a primary focus since it's the newest game mode. People want to play it, and right now a lot of the incentive to play it is being killed because people are unsure if they're going to get their rewards after that last week debacle. Then we've got the end of mission error, the bug. I've encountered this twice. I've seen a ton of other people in my comments saying that they've encountered it. I've seen a ton of people in comments on the Fat Shark forums and other videos. Basically, when you hop into play at the end, the game just hard crashes you all the way back to character select, and the game is obviously ending right there, and you don't receive credit for the game. So you've wasted the maximum amount of time. It's crazy. Of course, we've got the classic, and everyone loves the error code 2003, 2004, 2001, Space Odyssey, whatever it is. All those error code 2000s that just randomly drop you out of a game, and you can sometimes reconnect, but it's kind of intermittent. Then we've got the Xbox fixes. Xbox is a situation that I put the asterisk here because we know Fat Shark is aware of this. I think Hotfix 56 says that they are changing some stuff in the code so that they can better scrape data from Xbox users and figure out like what is causing these errors, because Xbox is just in absolute disarray right now. They're crashing out all the time in games. If you have an Xbox player in your game, you can almost bet that they'll be dropped from the game like midway through, and then they'll rejoin potentially. So Xbox faces, we have to hope that those are on like that front burner. And then we've got the Excise Vault map, which was taken away in a little while back, before, somewhere between the Unlocked and Loaded and the Havoc update, and they were aiming to push it back out with Havoc, but I don't think everything was fixed yet. I don't exactly remember what was wrong with it, but they cut it out of the rotation, and hopefully they'll be adding that back in with the January patch. And then finally, we know that they'll be touching up visuals on armor, but they haven't had any passes to the Havoc specific armor, and that's something that I particularly think that they should focus on, because that's a nice big reward. People are starting to get that Havoc armor now. I see a lot of people around with it, and it is very obviously clipping with a ton of stuff. If you look at it from certain angles, it's completely see-through. Like if you're sprinting forward in the Morningstar, you can see up under the rib cage, and it's hollow from the backside. It's just completely transparent. So, but that's not a big focus, obviously. Okay, the second thing, Havoc. Havoc is a big focus for this new coming year. They've already stated they are going to be adding new missions to the pool. The initial pool that we started with, I think, is 8 maps or so, and those were clearly curated based around like comparable win-loss rates. They didn't want to pick like super easy maps like Hab Draco, but they also didn't want to pick any like crazy hard maps. I don't know how Clandestine Gloriana snuck its way in there, considering the failure rate in that first section of the map. But I think the mission pool can be expanded a little bit now that they've kind of gotten the hang of like where the difficulties are with Havoc. New mutators we already know are coming. They released those 4 mutators: the Infected Mobian 21st, the Pox armor, the green armor, the stuff that drops on the ground, the green splooge on the ground, as well as the parasite. And I think those mutators are pretty boring. I hope they get wild with these new mutators. They've already stated that they are going to be working on these and expanding it, and that's going to be one of the major elements that's going to expand and make Havoc more interesting. So I really hope that they do that. New ranks, perhaps. They've already capped at 40. I don't encourage them to add any new penances, but perhaps some new ranks now that a lot more people are reaching 40. They can look to scale that content beyond, just to give people something else to work on, keep their long-term players playing the game and shopping from the Aquila shop, you know what I mean? And then finally, quick play. I think this is something that they almost certainly have heard from the community, and they would be fools not to acknowledge it as a pretty decent idea. They need a way to stimulate the player base of this game mode to get people in there. This game has been formulated for quick play. It is it's something that they started with Vermintide 2, where they added that quick play button, and people got so dependent upon it that like sitting around in a lobby went the way of the dinosaurs. Sitting around in the Red Moon Inn from Vermintide 1 was like the thing to do while you were like browsing maps and stuff. But quick play is like an integral part of Darktide. You pretty much almost no one plays without quick play these days, is what I feel. Like 95% plus of players are just going to the thing and hitting play, quick play, let's go. So this should be added to quick play. And you know what? Are people in quick play going to be able to complete 40s? No, but people who are like queuing from 1 to 25 can probably, or 1 to 20 can use quick play to get those ranks done pretty easily. And then after that, they can, it'll party them into a group, and then they can figure out their builds and whether or not they're suited to work together once they're in the little lobby. Okay. So that's everything for, I think, that they'll work on for Havoc. And then we've got some confirmed stuff. This is the stuff that they have already said that they are working on. I already said new mutators for Havoc is definitely coming. Operations. Remember Operations? Remember Rolling Steel? They released that in like it came out with Unlocked and Loaded. And so it's been about 3 months. They said that they want to release more operations and have them be their own type of missions that you can browse. So like when you only have 10 minutes to spare, you can go to the board and say, hey, I want to do an operation right now instead of a full mission. And you can go do those instead. So I would hope that they will roll out at least 2 of these together. So that we have like 3 to choose from rather than just popping these out one at a time. That's going to be really slow going, and they're so much smaller than regular missions, and they're very like confined areas, so they should ostensibly be easier on the asset creators. Then that means that it's going to come with the operations mission select, like they've said. This is going to be its own game mode that's going to be sort of a separate queue. You will queue specifically for operations. You won't get dropped into a regular mission if you queue for operations. New weapons, new maps, and the re-release of Excise Vault. They've already indicated their intentions of doing all this stuff. And then down here we've got some probably stuff. Things that are most likely going to come out this year. Ogryn rework. I have to imagine that the reason that they have been so tight-lipped and why the testers that are, put their stuff on YouTube and stuff have been so like non-confrontational, or they haven't given any opinionated information on the way that Ogryn was quote-unquote rebalanced in the end of the year when they shifted his little talents around, is because they are anticipating something big to be coming out for Ogryn in the next couple of patches, that he will see a full sort of shifting of paradigms. I don't know for certain, but I would have to feel like the fact that they just released this patch and said, where is it? It's in Unlocked and Loaded, isn't it? Who knows? Whenever it was, they released that update and said, yeah, we're just going to be changing these things to Ogryn, and they gave no other comment about it. It makes me feel like that they are working towards an Ogryn update, but they don't exactly know when that will be, so they don't want to be like, hey, Ogryn update coming in 2 weeks, and then have it be 3 months and people will be pissed. Then we're looking probably at a weapon rebalance. They have to be aware of the prevalence of dueling sword. They have to be aware of the unprevalence of certain weapons that are just really, really underperforming, and this is something they do really well in every hotfix or all the small patches, is to continue to tweak the values on weapons. They don't have to wait for major updates to do this, because tweaking weapon values is not something that's going to draw players to the game. It's just something that needs to be done periodically to keep the game fluid. And then probably a new enemy type. Well, with all of the lore progressions we've been having going on with Rinda Karnak and the Herald of Admonition, all that stuff, there's almost definitely new enemy types coming, because we have this, like, they've already stated that they want the cultists to be this more like a different sort of faction than the scabs. So like the guys in the yellow that don't wear armor, they want them to be a different feeling sort of partial faction. So maybe we'll be seeing some sort of magic users, since they are using magic now in the Dark Communion and stuff. Maybe we'll be seeing something like that during the year. And I have to imagine at least like a new special or a new elite or something at some point during this year. And then maybe really no indications to this stuff coming out in any way, but this is stuff that I would expect to see perhaps in quarter 3 or quarter 4 of this year, just because I can't think of anything else that they would really be working on. They will probably have Havoc in a decent place by then, operations, all that stuff. They can't just keep releasing operations and Havoc all damn year long. So I would anticipate maybe a new game mode, something fun and interesting. They did the same thing with Vermintide 2. They did Weaves and they did Chaos Waste. Fingers crossed, guys. A new class would be a big thing if they could get that working. Because I mean, this would be a great way to bring players back to the game. It would be a great way to drive sales. Especially if they put like a small premium price on it, like they do for Vermintide classes of like $4. A new enemy faction. There's been so much indications about the cultist Gene Stealer cult in the other Hive City on Atoma, that we'd have to imagine this is coming at some point, but maybe not. And then solo mode, probably not, right? The tons of people commenting this, half of them just trolling for Steam awards and stuff. but I certainly feel like if they were going to release solo mode, they probably would have done it by now. There must be some sort of logistical reason why solo mode just does not work for them. Probably just because, like, you know, there's not that many people they probably assess that would actually play a solo mode with their terrible, terrible robots. And then my suggestions, how about we add some animations to rescuing people and pulling them up off of cliffs? This is something that I know is super non-essential, but has always irritated me, that we just stand there like pretty much frozen robots while we're helping people up. It doesn't give you any feel. If you aren't looking at your UI, you have no idea when the rescue animation is done. And I've canceled it more times than not because the bar is like not a good indicator of when you're done. And I just think it adds a lot of immersion when you can see those rescue animations like that. I don't know why that's not part of the game. Maybe it's just me. Maybe my client is bugged. Talent overhauls. How about we just start mixing stuff up this year? I'm certain there's players on your team and your testing teams that could come up with some cool talents, so we could swap in place of some of these junk talents, or we could reposition some of the very, very obvious choices that every class is making these days. They have to have data, like a heat map on who's picking what in what tree. So I would love to see some talent overhauls just to keep things fresh, you know? Mission select. You know, this is 2025 now. People have been asking for this, begging for this for years. I really have never understood the resistance to mission select. I've heard all sorts of stories and excuses for why it's not in the game, but the fact that the functionality is completely 100% still there, you can in fact get the mod called Many More Tries and go and browse any mission that's been released in the last 24 hours. I understand that there's a server issue where like the server can only hold 24 hours worth of missions, but it can certainly hold more than 10 missions on the map at once. And it really, really sucks to lose a mission and not be able to requeue for it immediately with your party. So even if you like party up at the end, yeah, which no one does anyway, but yeah, mission select would be amazing. And then a real pie in the sky vision for Darktide, some sort of story. I was talking to Jeffkis, and he said he appreciates that they're trying to go for the Dark Souls sort of thing with this game, and I laughed because that is the most charitable interpretation of what they're trying to do with their story here, that they're trying to just tell by, you know, the barest minimum of like lore drops and stuff on curios, and like they don't have a story. Okay, let's just be frank here. They are coming up with a story like one little piece at a time. They drop it via you know, dev blogs and stuff like that, and that's it. It would be awesome if there was a cohesive story that they could put together, just like some cutscenes between each of the already pre-existing missions that says, all right, good job, reject, now get over there and do this, now do that, all right, we've got a situation evolving on this train, like that sort of stuff that like would introduce players to all the maps. I think if there was that, some sort of like buff those bots and give you solo mode and that, it would draw a lot of players to the game. I mean, look at Space Marine 2. People don't give a shit about the Darktide version in like Darktide game mode, the operations in that game. They're playing it for the story because it's got a cool story, and that game sold 1 million copies. So add in a cool story. Don't just like tease people with this potential story, and I think that'll draw people. That's how people connect with games, is through the stories that they tell, and not just like how fucking cool it feels. Darktide feels really fucking cool, but I can give less of a rat's about the story. Maybe 2025 will be the year where that changes. Anyway, guys, that's it for me, Mr. E. If you liked the video, if you are excited for 2025 and Darktide, like and subscribe. Help the channel out. Appreciate you so much. Have a good one.